This is about your body. Someone is telling everyone you look like a. There are moments in life when a person begins to notice something strange, not in the mirror, not in the shape of their face, but in the way people look at them when they think they are not being watched. A glance held a little too long, a whisper that suddenly stops when they enter the room, a feeling that conversations seem to change direction whenever their name is mentioned. And perhaps lately, you have felt something similar. Perhaps you have sensed that somewhere beyond your sight, a story about you is being told. Not a story written by your own voice, but by someone else's. A story carried from person to person like a shadow moving silently across ancient stone walls. Long ago, in the pages of Scripture, there were many who discovered that people often judged what they could see before they understood what was hidden within. The young shepherd David was overlooked because of his youth, while the prophet Samuel was reminded that God sees differently than men see. Human eyes often search the surface, measuring appearances, comparing faces, forming opinions from fragments rather than truth. And so it has always been. Throughout history, rumors have traveled faster than facts, assumptions have grown larger than reality, and countless people have found themselves carrying labels they never chose. Somewhere, someone may be speaking about how you look, what you represent, or who they imagine you to be. Yet the deeper question is not what they are saying, but why those words seem to be spreading. Imagine for a moment, a quiet village at sunset, where every doorway holds a watcher and every path carries a traveler. One person whispers a thought, another repeats it, and before long the entire village believes it knows someone it has never truly met. This ancient pattern has never disappeared. It simply changed its clothing and followed humanity into every generation. But what happens when the story being shared is not the truth, and what hidden purpose lies behind the person who began it? We will uncover that mystery together, slowly and carefully, in the journey ahead. And if you enjoy these thoughtful explorations into the deeper lessons hidden within human nature and Scripture, consider subscribing to the Bible Chronicle, because in the next part, we begin tracing the surprising origin of the voice that started the story. The beginning of every rumor is usually far quieter than people imagine. It does not arrive with trumpets, it does not announce itself with certainty, and it rarely begins as an obvious lie. Instead, it often starts with a small observation, a passing comment, a single opinion spoken at the right moment to the right listener. Like a seed carried by the wind, it settles into the minds of others and begins to grow. The remarkable thing is that most people who repeat it never stop to ask where it came from. They simply pass it along, adding their own assumptions as they go. By the time it reaches the wider crowd, the original truth has become almost impossible to recognize. And throughout biblical history, this pattern appeared again and again, teaching a lesson about the fragile nature of human judgment. Consider the story of Joseph, a young man whose life was shaped by the opinions of others. His brothers looked at him and saw favoritism. They saw dreams they did not understand, and they allowed those perceptions to become their reality. Soon, the image they carried of Joseph became more powerful than Joseph himself. They no longer saw a brother standing before them, they saw a symbol of everything they feared and resented. Their thoughts grew into actions, and their actions changed the course of many lives. Yet through every misunderstanding, through every false conclusion, God continued working quietly beneath the surface. The lesson remains timeless. People often believe they understand a person simply by looking at them, yet the deepest truths are rarely visible to the eye. And perhaps this is where the mystery becomes personal, because when someone speaks about your appearance, your character, or the role they think you play in the world, they may not be describing you at all. They may be revealing something about themselves, their fears, their expectations, their own hidden struggles. Ancient wisdom reminds us that what comes from the mouth often begins in the heart. So before accepting every story told about you, pause and ask a deeper question: what is motivating the storyteller? In the next part, we will follow that question into one of the oldest psychological patterns found in both scripture and history. A pattern that explains why certain people feel compelled to shape the way others see you. As we continue this journey, we arrive at a truth that has echoed through centuries of human history, a truth so subtle that many people never recognize it while it is happening. The desire to control how others are perceived is almost as old as humanity itself. From royal courts to quiet villages, from ancient kingdoms to modern communities, there have always been individuals who discovered that influencing a person's reputation can be easier than confronting the person directly. A whispered description, repeated often enough, begins to shape expectations. And once expectations are formed, people start seeing what they expect to see rather than what is truly there. The human mind has always been vulnerable to this mystery, filling empty spaces with assumptions, creating stories where only fragments exist. The scriptures offer many examples of this hidden pattern. Think of David before his battle with Goliath, a young shepherd standing among seasoned warriors. Many saw only a boy, too small, too inexperienced, too ordinary for such a challenge. Their eyes settled on outward appearances and overlooked the courage growing quietly within him. Yet history often turns on what people fail to see. The same crowd that doubts today may be astonished tomorrow. This is why appearances can be deceptive, not only in how we view ourselves, but also in how others choose to describe us. Sometimes a person becomes the target of speculation simply because they do not fit the image others expected. And when expectations are challenged, rumors often rush in to fill the gap. Now imagine someone speaking about you, repeating a description, encouraging others to see you through a particular lens. Perhaps they believe their version of the story is true, or perhaps they simply enjoy the influence that comes from shaping perceptions. But here is the deeper mystery. Why do certain voices gain attention while others fade away? Why do some narratives spread through entire communities while truth struggles to catch up? The answer lies within a powerful force that has guided human behavior since ancient times, a force connected to fear, belonging, and the longing to be accepted by a group. In the next part, we will uncover how that force works beneath the surface, and why understanding it changes everything. To understand why certain stories spread so quickly, we must travel into one of the quietest chambers of the human heart. Deep within every community, every family, every gathering of people, there exists a powerful desire to belong. It is an ancient longing, woven into human nature from the very beginning. People seek connection, they seek acceptance, and often, without realizing it, they seek agreement. When a story begins circulating about someone, many individuals do not repeat it because they know it is true. They repeat it because everyone else seems to believe it. Agreement feels safe, while questioning the crowd can feel uncomfortable. And so, a simple opinion can slowly transform into something that appears to be accepted fact. This pattern can be seen throughout biblical history. Consider the spies who returned from the land of Canaan. 12 men witnessed the same landscape, the same cities, the same challenges. Yet when fear entered the conversation, the voices of doubt spread more rapidly than the voices of faith. Before long, an entire nation was influenced by a narrative that focused on obstacles rather than possibilities. The crowd embraced the message that matched their fears. This reveals something important about human nature. People are often drawn toward stories that confirm what they already feel inside. If a person carries insecurity, they may believe negative reports more easily. If they carry fear, they may accept fearful interpretations without question. And this brings us closer to the mystery surrounding the story being told about you. Sometimes the words being shared have very little to do with your appearance, your character, or your worth. Instead, they gain momentum because they connect with emotions already present in those who hear them. The rumor becomes a mirror reflecting the concerns of the audience rather than the reality of the person being discussed. Yet there is another layer hidden beneath all of this, one that few people ever notice. Who benefits when the story spreads? Who gains influence, attention, or control from shaping the narrative? In the next part, we will follow that question into a fascinating biblical principle that reveals why some people work so hard to define others before those others have a chance to define themselves. As the mystery deepens, we arrive at a question that has echoed through palaces, marketplaces, temples, and generations of human experience. Who benefits from the story? Whenever a reputation is being shaped, whenever a narrative is carefully repeated, there is often a reason hidden beneath the surface. Sometimes that reason is obvious, but more often it remains concealed behind smiles, casual conversations, and seemingly harmless remarks. Throughout history, Those who wished to elevate themselves sometimes found it easier to diminish someone else. Rather than building their own influence through character, they attempted to gain it by controlling how others were perceived. It is a quiet strategy, yet one that appears again and again in both history and scripture. Consider the life of David during the reign of Saul. As David's victories became known, the songs of the people began to spread throughout the land. Suddenly, Saul found himself listening not only to the words being spoken, but to the meaning behind them. Fear entered his heart, and once fear took root, perception began to change. The same David who had served faithfully was now viewed through a different lens. Nothing about David had changed overnight, but the story surrounding him had. This is one of the oldest lessons found in the biblical record. People sometimes attempt to define others when they feel threatened by what those others represent. The narrative becomes a shield, a distraction, or even a weapon designed to influence how a community thinks. Yet there is a profound truth hidden within this ancient pattern, a truth that many overlook. A person's identity is not determined by the loudest voice speaking about them. Throughout Scripture, God repeatedly worked through individuals who were misunderstood, underestimated, or wrongly judged by those around them. Their stories remind us that public opinion can shift like sand in the wind, while truth remains steady beneath it all. And so, if someone is telling others who you are, or what you supposedly look like, or what you represent, the greater question may not be what they are saying, but why they feel the need to say it at all. In the next part, we will uncover the final layer of this mystery, and explore the surprising reason why some people become the subject of attention long before they fully understand their own purpose. As we reach the final stage of this journey, the scattered pieces of the mystery begin to settle into place, like fragments of an ancient mosaic slowly revealing the picture they were always meant to form. We have explored the whispers, the assumptions, the fears, and the hidden motives that often shape the stories people tell about one another. Yet beneath all of these layers lies a deeper reality, one that has appeared throughout history and throughout the pages of Scripture. Often, when attention gathers around a person, it is not because everyone understands them. It is because they represent something that others cannot easily explain. People are naturally curious about what stands apart, what challenges expectations, what refuses to fit neatly into familiar categories. Throughout the Bible, many of God's chosen servants experienced this very pattern. Joseph was misunderstood before he became a leader. David was underestimated before he became a king. Jeremiah was questioned before his words were fulfilled. Again and again, individuals found themselves surrounded by opinions long before their purpose became clear. The crowd saw only a moment, while God saw the entire journey. This reminds us of a quiet but powerful truth. People often form conclusions based on what is visible today, while the deeper meaning of a person's life may not be revealed until years later. What others call strange, unusual, or difficult to understand may simply be a chapter whose ending has not yet arrived. And so, if there is a story being told about you, if someone is encouraging others to see you through a particular lens, remember this ancient lesson. Human perception changes, rumors fade, opinions rise and fall like waves upon the shore. But truth has a remarkable way of enduring. The voices around you may attempt to define your image, your appearance, or your identity. Yet none of those voices possess the authority to determine your worth. The greatest figures of biblical history were not remembered because of what people said about them, but because of who they became through faith, perseverance, and purpose. As our journey comes to an end, carry this thought with you: the story that matters most is not the one others tell about you, but the one written through your character and your choices. And if you have enjoyed exploring these timeless mysteries and biblical reflections together, quietly subscribe to the Bible Chronicle, and continue walking with us into the hidden stories that history still whispers today.